welcome to Talk Early to Me, where we dive deep in the world of early education. I'm Dania.
And I'm Tamara.
And each week we're exploring everything from headline stories, child development theories, new research, and real-life classroom experiences. Whether you're a parent, teacher, or caregiver, you're in the right place to discover practical tips, strategies, creative and inspiring ideas, along with the best practices that make early learning fun and meaningful while you build a foundation for a lifetime of success. Welcome back, listeners.
Welcome back.
Wow, we are on episode 3 at this point.
Moving right along.
My goodness. And tonight's episode, or today's episode, whenever you're actually listening, is all about building social skills in early learners.
So important.
Seriously, it really is important. I know full-on adults who don't have good social skills. You know what I'm saying?
I think it's a lifelong process. Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. Every once in a while we forget ourselves, but we provide the basis for these social learning skills that are going to be so important for lifelong learners.
They really are. They as we've highlighted before, it really is the reason that we have early learning classrooms, is to start making sure that there's an importance put on that social development for children, and that they are heard and seen, and that their feelings are validated, that they can come into themselves, their self-confidence, their self-esteem. All of that matters. Now, back in the day, children, not so much. You can have some feelings if you want to, but don't say nothing about it. I mean, really.
Children were meant to be seen and not heard.
Exactly.
And that's still true in some cultures.
Yeah, it is. Your opinion as a child doesn't matter. And then you drop them off with us, and we tell them everything they do matters. And so, I know at times we are also schooling parents about social interactions and social competencies and social development for children. They don't realize the depth of what it is their child needs on that level.
Go back to being seen and heard.
Okay.
I think that is where we start.
Mm-hmm.
Because imagine just as an adult how it feels to be seen and heard by someone else.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine that as a child, to have someone say, I see you,
mm-hmm.
I hear you, I'm here for you,
mm-hmm.
whether you're angry, whether you're sad, whether you're happy,
mm-hmm.
I'm going to hold you up,
mm-hmm.
and I'm going to be there for you.
Mm-hmm.
That's the basis of our social emotional learning. That's the basis of what we do in early childhood.
Mm-hmm.
And as teachers, that's our role.
Right.
As parents, that's the beginning role.
Right. Right.
So how do we now discuss, the importance of it, why it's important, why we should understand it?
I think part of knowing its importance and knowing that we are their support is to also realize that they are going to show us their need for that in some very unconventional ways. They are going to show their need. It might be ugly. It just might plain out be ugly. I know that we've both dealt with children who've had some anger issues or some behavioral issues, and what they demonstrated was a need to be seen and a need to be heard, but how they demonstrated it tore up our classrooms.
Right.
And detracted from a very lovely lesson plan of learning that was so perfect when I wrote it. Didn't turn out that way. It may have even looked like, I remember one particular case, had to clear the classroom. Mm-hmm. And I had to be on the floor with that child, holding him as he tantrumed and tried to hurt me. And all I could say was, I'm right here. I'm right here. I'm right here. I'm right here. And it took a good half an hour, 45 minutes for him to finish tantruming, collapse in exhaustion, and cry. And that was, it was a breakthrough. I'll give you that. But no one had ever held him through that need. It was punishment and discipline based on that behavior. And that's what he knew. That's what he expected me to do. And
it's that thought that the children that need you the most are going to tell you in the most hurtful ways. They don't know how to express that. They don't know how to tell you that, hey, I need you. Please help me.
Mm-hmm.
When I teach my trauma class, I always talk about that we need to look at what are the behaviors trying to tell. What are you trying to tell me?
Mm-hmm.
Because there's something behind it, and everybody, we say that now as teachers more often.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what is this behavior telling me?
Mm-hmm.
Is it naughty? I like to use, is it naughty or neurological?
Mm-hmm. Great phrase. Great phrase.
Is it just something inside you that needs to come out, but you don't know how to let it come out? You don't know how to tell somebody, hey, I need your help.
Mm-hmm.
So it comes out in behaviors. It comes out in ways that are harmful to others and yourself at times. So making sure that we give the outlets for this properly to children is important. And that's why that's why we're here to talk about social.
Yeah, and we hope that carries over. We hope really hard that it carries over into those junior high years when it gets harder and differentiating between real and make believe and social media and all these other kinds of things. And then as it gets even harder as they go into high school, and then we've come back around full circle trying to transition into adulthood. And then in our adulthood, things happen socially, things happen emotionally, and we all go back to being 3 for a second and try to regain how to cope, how to regulate, how to do that. And if you didn't have those skills to begin with, you can flail. It takes a minute. And then we have those who they're unable to cope. And so we want to, like you said, give them as much support now as they're learning those regulatory skills and those coping skills, so that when we make that full circle, they're able to, and then they're able to give that to the next generation down. Because passing on that trauma, that
intergenerational trauma is real.
That is.
But then you have on top of, for our adolescents and your middle schoolers with the hormones and the puberty and all of that stuff. So sometimes even what they know when they're younger goes out the door.
Yeah.
What are my peers saying?
Mm-hmm.
What do I think I should be doing? Mm-hmm. What kind of sonic bling should I have today so that my friends really like me?
Mm-hmm.
I need their approval.
Right.
And that's just how we develop as social beings.
Yeah.
We need the approval of others. So who's giving the children that approval? Right. If it starts early, it starts at home, continues. There's somebody telling you that you're wanted and needed and loved. Mm-hmm. That's going to make a huge difference. It's going to build that positive sense of self. Mm-hmm. It's going to help them interact with other people and build relationships. That's the emphasis of social development.
Right.
We're looking to belong at every age.
Yes.
Our younger children are you my friend?
Uh-huh. Every day, are you my friend?
Are you my friend? Mm-hmm. Who are your friends? And they'll name people. But at that age, they don't really know what friends are? That's people that you talk to. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's the basis of it. Mm-hmm. Like you get that general idea. That's somebody that I want to hang out with. Mm-hmm. Somebody that I want to spend time with. And then they tell me I can't come to their party and life is over.
Life is over. You can't sit at the lunch table with me. You're not invited to play in the house area with me. Devastation ensues.
Right.
I mean,
and that's learning.
mm-hmm.
You know, at first we hear a lot in the classroom, well, I'm not their friend today. And that's good. Let's say right now, okay, you don't want to play with little Johnny, but maybe tomorrow you will again. And understanding that concept that it isn't final.
Right.
But Johnny thinks it's final. Johnny has a whole different emotional take on this,
Right.
like social take, like, oh my gosh, I'm being left out. And there's studies that tell us that that being left out hits the same parts of the brain as physical pain. So when you're being left out, you are in physical pain. It's setting off the same parts of your brain that are saying, hey, this really hurts. I don't like being left out. I need people. And then other physical things are happening in your body, and you're like, wow, that's what it is. For our younger learners, they're not learning their bodies yet. They're still figuring out, interoception. What do I feel inside? And what is this emotion? That my stomach feels empty. Something's moving in my stomach. I must have to go to the bathroom. No, that's anxiety. That's anxiety. But you're not going to say to that 3-year-old, hey, you're okay. You don't have to go potty. It's just all your emotions. It's just all welling up inside of you. But you can help them name it. That's something that you're feeling. And you might be feeling this because you really want to play with Johnny. Or whatever it is. So helping them name the feelings that they're feeling.
That's one of my favorite activities when I got to that point of the year, was breaking down the names of the feelings. We went from your basics to I'm happy today, I'm sad today, I'm mad today, I'm scared today, into, sadness may not be sadness. I might just don't feel well. I might just be like out of it. I might just need a nap. I might be sleepy. Fear, we used that one, broke it down into anxiety. We broke it down into, all these other different names so that they understood there was more than just one basic. Anger, they loved breaking anger down. Anger was broken down into frustration.
Big word.
Yeah. Oh, and trust me, they knew it and knew how to use it and expected me to use it when I was frustrated. A lot of times if I had just gotten an email or something like that, or I gotten off the phone and I would take a deep breath, there was always that one child who'd be like, Miss Thea, are you frustrated? And I would have to say, yes, love, I am frustrated. Miss Thea is frustrated right now. Well, you have to do your breathing, Miss Thea. I mean, we had, gone through all the coping skills that we had given them. But the thing was, they were naming it. They could name it correctly. They would go home and name it. Their parents would come back to me and ask me why their child knows about frustration and, sadness and all these other different things. But then I would ask them, so how are they with their emotions at home now that they can tell you what they're actually feeling? Tantrums were lessened. Big fights and blowouts did not happen because I can tell you, hey, look, you're annoying me. And I did have a parent tell me, Miss Ann, please don't tell the child to tell me that that I annoy her.
That's kind of awkward.
And it is awkward. However, she could not deny the fact that that was the feeling. It was correct. The child wasn't just throwing a fit or a tantrum. That's where they were. And she knew how to respond to it because she knew the exact feeling. It's like when you've got a newborn that's crying, okay, are we wet? Are we hungry? Do we have gas? Do we have, what's going on? Because they can't tell you. Now I've got a 3-year-old who can say, Mom, you're annoying me. I'm going to need a moment.
Be over here. I'll wait.
Yeah, exactly. And so guess what? That mom learned to not annoy that child and give her a moment. And the just relationships in household all seem to bloom and develop in across the center. You know, parents would tell me this at conferences, like they know how they're feeling. And I've never had a child who could tell me how they were feeling so that I could react properly. Because when we don't know how each other's feeling, we react based on our perception. And that is a very dangerous thing to do. It's a very dangerous thing to do. It's almost like sending a text. I may be sending it in this tone, but you're reading it in that tone. And now we're mad at each other because of a sentence that we both read incorrectly.
Right.
You know? So naming those feelings is just so important for our littles to be able to do. And I hope that any parents listening to this have some of that, listen in real hard, tight. Give those kiddos names for what they're feeling. Make sure that you can do it. Take them, and this is a shameless plug for a Disney Pixar movie.
I knew it was coming. I was waiting because I was going to do the same thing, but you go right ahead there, Dania.
No.
Give it up.
Take them to see Inside Out 1 and 2 and however many more they come out with, because I'm feeling there's going to be a 3.
I'm sure. There better be.
There better be, right? We're counting on it. These are really fabulous movies that honestly break down some of those feelings so well. Just so well.
Funny story. I have a nephew that they went and saw the first one in the theater. And he left and he said he didn't like it. He didn't like it. He didn't like the idea of the people being in his head, running his feelings. Like, it scared him to think, oh my goodness, this is really happening in my brain. But it's real. That it was really happening in your brain. These are all the things. And if you watch the movies and you think about emotions and everything, and it's the movies, even as adults. I mean, I bawled my eyes out in the second one, and maybe in the first, I can't remember, but the second one, like, to give that power back to yourself and know what you're feeling is real and other people feel it is just something that is Disney's doing it right on that. They're doing it right. They're seeing that this social and emotional struggles that people have need to be named, need to be talked about, because you're not alone.
Right.
And that's one of the biggest things. People think they're alone in their feelings. They think they're alone in even children. I'm the only one that's feeling this way. I mean, and brain development tells us that you're going to feel that for a while, and especially in adolescence. Everyone has it out for me. I'm the only one that feels this way. You don't get it. Right? So, as we're combating all of the natural brain development that we see, I mean, we can only do so much, but this is the basis.
It is. And I think it would behoove our medical profession to take a step back and look at that before they start putting our kiddos, assessing them and diagnosing them with things before a child even has the ability to learn how to name it and to learn how to regulate and to learn how these things work. We want to, give them meds. We want to drop a pill. We want to, say that they have, all of these different things. When, gosh, can I get a chance? Can I get a chance to name it? Can I get a chance to be me? Can I get a chance to see what this is inside of me? One of the things I appreciated about the second one was how they described anxiety. And it was just watching that scene unfold from someone who doesn't necessarily, I mean, we all get anxious. That's a typical, emotion reaction. But I can't say that I specifically suffer from anxiety. But watching that scene unfold, I understood what someone who does feels like. I mean, so
The running in circles scene.
yeah,
Yes.
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 And the non-movement of the hand, not being able to make that decision. It was,
It's a shutdown moment.
oh gosh, it was quite a feeling.
Very powerful.
Very powerful. So, but anyway, moving on. Thank you, Disney Pixar. Okay.
What is the name it to tame it? Where does that come from? It keeps coming into my mind. Name it to tame it. Something. It's somebody's movement,
Yeah.
and you're naming it to tame it. Whether it's anxiety or some other mental health struggle. If you're naming it, if you're figuring out what it is, goes back to learning your feelings.
Mhm.
Goes back to naming the simple ones like happiness.
Mm-hmm.
Simple. Sometimes.
Simply complex.
Simply complex.
Simply complex.
Emotions are never easy. They're
No,
just
they're
never
not.
easy to name. Even there's more than one in everything.
Yeah.
So I don't know where that name it to tame it came from, but I'm gonna find out. Maybe on the next podcast I'll be able to share that. Or if you know, put it in our comments. What do you watch this podcast? Listen to this podcast. So I just think that that's powerful too.
Mm-hmm.
And recognizing, and that's the first, like recognizing.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. And it may take a while. You may not recognize it till after it happens. And you're like, whoa,
Mm-hmm.
I just had a panic attack.
Right.
You know, oh, wait, I just, and for children, they have the same things happen.
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden, they were fine, but then they weren't.
Mm-hmm.
What happened? Maybe nothing.
Right.
Maybe just something that they felt inside of them.
Right.
I need to toss this table. I need to throw this chair.
Right.
And we try to find what happened as the caveat for it.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes we're at a struggle because we don't know.
Right.
There's nothing. Nothing happened.
Nothing happened.
And that's okay.
Right. We also have to train ourselves as adults to not tell them, "Oh, you're fine."
Yeah.
Oh, you're fine. That non-validation. That that's why I'm going to throw the second chair because I'm not fine.
I'm not fine. You're not listening. There's something I'm trying to tell you.
Right. And it's bugging me. It's right. I mean, it's pissing me off. I mean, let's be honest with it. So, those early experiences, as we talk about flipping chairs and, tables and stuff like that, being able to name it and tame it, as you say, really does begin to shape that behavior.
Mm.
Like I spoke about that earlier with that little one that was tantruming out and stuff like that. His behavior after that changed as he knew that someone was there to support, but also as we started naming how he was feeling, as we began to see it escalate. We could catch it earlier because we started to see some triggers. We started to know. And that positive interaction for something that could be negative at any sense, at any moment, started to shape how he behaved and how he began to regulate and how he began to understand himself. Okay, this is really bugging me. I need to back off for a second. I need to go over to we had a quiet area, but, now we call it the calming corner, or, all of these wonderful new names that we have for it that Lakeshore sells stuff for, shout out to Lakeshore. But we have, learned.
Oh, the things that happen in the house when you're recording.
Yeah.
All right.
They're fun. We have learned how we react influences how they behave before, after, and during. And we are shaping their behavior by how we react to it. If we react as violently as they do, they are going to think ill of themselves. I'm the bad kid.
And then all of the other children start to say the same thing, and they go home and they talk about that. I want to go back though. We talk a lot about the children that are throwing things and the children that are, acting out.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to forget about the children that aren't acting out.
Mm.
The children that are quietly sitting in the corner. The children that are not engaging with other people.
Mm-hmm.
I think we need to remember those children too, that we need to bring them in socially.
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes that's the personality.
Mm-hmm.
I would rather be an introvert. I don't want to play with everyone.
Right.
I'm okay being by myself.
Mm-hmm.
And then we worry.
Right.
Are you sure you're okay being by yourself? People need people,
Mm-hmm.
And I think though we need to show the introverts too that it's okay to sometimes interact,
Mm-hmm.
even if it takes your whole social battery for that 5 minutes, whatever it is. It is important to say, it's okay to be alone, but it's okay to be with people too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we can't forget about our introverts that are being overshadowed oftentimes by extroverts that are asking for your attention. But we need to make sure that we see all children and meet them where they're at in their social journey.
I agree. So, shall we talk about some common challenges or some strategies?
Maybe, talk about some strategies with children. And again, we're talking mostly about the children that are having temper tantrums, showing the aggression or difficulty communicating. We're seeing all of those things, and throw in there with what I was just talking about, the shyness. So I may just be standoffish, but the ones that are going to get the most attention are the children that are acting out physically,
yes,
verbally. So how as parents, how as teachers, educators, how do we help? How do we begin to help? Because not everything's going to work every time.
Right.
And it might work one time, might not work the other time. Parents out there, that's true.
Mm-hmm. It's one of the most frustrating things about being a parent, because you think you've got it down pat because it worked, and then it doesn't work. And it's like, let's go back to the drawing board on this. Are you kidding me? But being a parent is not for the faint of heart. It's a daily struggle,
That's why you have a toolbox
yes.
of things to go to, not just one strategy.
Right.
But as many strategies as you can think of, as many strategies that people share with you, keep those.
Mm-hmm.
So what are you going to offer today, Dania?
My first one is one where I am preaching to the choir, because it's one that I have to go back to and reset myself constantly. That it really isn't, it's not personal. So I need to take a step back and stay calm and patient. Because if it was personal, if I took it that way every time, all I'm going to do is lash out at that child. Mm-hmm. I am not going to see things from their point of view. I am not going to look for the antecedent to what's going on. I am not going to see what the trigger is. I'm going to see red. And I'm going to want to revert back to maybe my childhood, what happened when I acted out, or what I saw happen when, my cousin acted out, or something like that. If that wasn't the same kind of discipline that I received, I know as a child what I saw, whether it's on me or whether it's on someone else, and to make sure that I am approaching the situation from a calm and patient way, which is really, at home, you can go off just like that. Maybe in the store, maybe in public, I'm going to do it a little bit differently, but I'm still in the back of my head like, you are not out here embarrassing me like this. You need to act like you got some home training. I cannot believe this, all the while in my head, that's the internal conversation. All the while I'm going, well, now I see that you're frustrated. I'll be done. I'll be on this other aisle when you get ready to get up and follow me. And, other people are like, get your kid,
And that's the struggle.
Mm-hmm.
Other people are looking at me.
Mm-hmm.
What am I going to do here?
Mm-hmm.
I'm a good parent.
Mm-hmm.
I know what I'm doing. They're just having a moment.
Mm-hmm. And they're not showing me in my best light as a parent, because they should be regulated when we go to the Stater Brothers and I say no tricks.
You should have yourself. You should have yourself.
Mm-hmm.
This should be this way. This could be that way.
Mm-hmm. So that's my first one is calm and patient. What do you think?
Being calm and patient. I mean, co-regulation. You mentioned that earlier. Your child's going to be regulating off of you. In the moment, if you're staying calm, they can see right through you.
Yes,
they know what's going to happen when we get home later. I am not looking forward to that.
You may make it to the car at this point.
Right?
Maybe.
I was the child that, surprise, pushed my mom to some limits. I was the child that was running through the house because it's going to hurt more when I catch you. But so I know that I pushed my mom to those limits of not being able to regulate herself.
Mm-hmm.
And so that co-regulation, that ability to step back from the situation.
Mm-hmm.
And remember, it's one situation. This is one incident.
Right.
How am I going to be able to come out of this situation and not look at it and think, oh my gosh, I could have done this wrong, right, differently.
Mm-hmm.
I did this wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I should have said this. I should have said that. But instead of breathing through it, like I'm trying to tell my child to do, or my student, or whoever you're working with, breathe, and it's okay to walk away.
Mommy's
If
on
you,
time
depending
out.
on where you're at, I mean, you may not be able to in the grocery store.
Right.
Depending on where you're at, it's okay to tag someone else in and say, "Look, I'm not able to regulate with this child right now. We're negative regulating. This is not good." And neither one of us is going to be able to calm down if one of us doesn't step away. And tag in another teacher, tag in a co-parent, tag in another family member. And hopefully everyone has somebody that they can do that with.
Right.
But sometimes you can't.
Right.
And that's when, as the adult, we have to dig deep inside of ourselves and say, okay, this moment will pass. I can let you feel what you're feeling. Feel it. Do it. And I'm going to be right here when you're ready.
When you get
however long that takes.
Right.
And while you're breathing and they're fitting or whatever,
right?
Whatever it is, and then when you come back together, that's when you can and regulate together. We're gonna breathe. We're gonna just stop, and we're gonna breathe. And sometimes they can't.
Right.
And that's okay. But just be there.
But sometimes they can, and you can have that. Mommy gets really frustrated when you do that, because I already told you, please don't do that. And I tell you, please don't do that because it's not safe and mommy doesn't want you to get hurt. Or, you can go into whatever level they're at, of understanding as to why. But none of that can happen if you're both still angry.
Right. And if they're hitting you, give them something else to hit.
Right.
Give them other things. You can't hit mommy. But here is this,
giant pillow.
Right.
Or...
you need to scream. Scream. I've screamed with people. I've screamed real loud with children. Usually they look at you like you're crazy.
Well,
But then they stop and say, whoa, is that what I sound like? But let's scream together. We need to scream. We need to get it out. We need to push this wall. You can't hit this, but push the wall. Push the wall and use aggression. Use those, Taekwondo. We always, exhale, get it all out. So those are all regulating things that we can help children learn, because it's not natural to not, scream and keep it all in.
Right.
So how do we let them know it's okay to do this, but it's not okay to do it against anyone else or hurt anyone else or hurt yourself.
Right.
And
Right.
that's something that you learn.
Right. It also, if you go all the way back to the beginning, did you set clear expectations? Does that child really know what you expect? Are your rules, regulations, or, we try not to say rules anymore. Are your expectations, are they clear or are they mixed messages?
Mm.
Because, someday, in front of these particular people, you need to act this way.
Mhm.
But if I'm tired after a long day's work and it's just us in the house, that rule is moot. You don't have to. So do I know when I'm supposed to? When I have to? When is your no always a no? Is your yes always a yes? If you've got clarity in your expectations, they have clarity in their behavior,
Mhm.
and they can achieve that. They can reach that goal and that limit that's set for them. Work within those boundaries. But if you're giving mixed messages, the kid's going to be all over the place. You're going to be all over the place. You both are going to be so emotionally tired. You're not going to know what to do with each other, and it's going to turn into some aggression. It's going to aid in the difficulty of communication. You're going to have some more tantrums. You are going to have some. They're going to have some. Everybody's going to have some.
Right. Those expectations are so important that you do hold to what you say, because if they know, they're not pushing those boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard one person say there's guide rails on the freeway just in case, they are there,
Mm-hmm.
and there's sometimes that you're going to stray away and you might need that guardrail to bring you back.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't want them to always be feeling like they need to test the boundaries, because I just don't know how far I can go.
Right.
If you know how far you can go, there's not a need to try to step out of that.
Right.
So that's important.
So on that note, when we set up boundaries at the school, expectations. We set up the expectations. We make sure that they're clear, and we always get how come they'll do that for you, but they won't do that for me at home? And so we return to setting up those expectations and setting clear boundaries. And a parent will always come back and say, well, I tried that and they acted out. And I said, and did you hold your ground when they were acting out? That's where the leak in the levee is, So we have to create that environment at home to match that environment that we've got going on at school. Once the child knows, because kids they code switch better than anybody I know. They know exactly when they get home what button to push and whose button to push and where the on switch and off switch is. When they get to school, as we like to call Miss Daniel-Land.
Oh, Miss Daniel-Land.
Oh, goodness, yes. My classroom was Miss Daniel-Land.
Okay.
When you crossed over that threshold in the morning, you were in Miss Daniel-Land. And there was expectations in Miss Daniel-Land. And there was only one queen. And I will give you one guess as to what the queen's name was.
Miss Tamara.
Grand possibility had you been within our reign. But no, it was Miss Dania, and then we had Princess so and so and all my other instructional aides and things like that. We all took part, but it was Miss Dania-Land, and it was her regulations. For lack of a better word, it was her rules and regulations that existed. And so they met those. They met me at that high expectation. They met me there. They did push the boundaries. They had to, because I'm 3 and 4. That's my job. I'm going to see. But once they figured out, they began to code switch. And so they would go back and forth between home, and they knew at home, shh, mom's tired. I can get away with this. They knew at school, McDaniel said no.
Miss Dana's never tired.
Miss Dana doesn't ever seem tired. Exactly. because it was not my job to be tired, even though I was probably exhausted. But we created that positive social environment with those expectations.
So you were modeling your
Absolutely.
expectations.
Of
You were
course.
modeling.
I respected them the way I expected them to respect me. I respected my coworkers. They got to see what kindness looked like. They got to feel what kindness felt like. We had group activities where we would work with different other groups at the school, and we got to show them that we had manners and we were kind and we, that kind
We
of
said
thing.
please and thank you.
Oh, we did all of that.
And we asked, how can I help you?
All over. And it would, the fifth grade teachers would be like, how you get a preschooler to do that? I can't get a fifth grader to do that. It's like, if your fifth grader didn't go to my preschool classroom, that's why they don't. I'll tell you that much. We praised when we saw the ability to praise, and we didn't praise just to do it. When we saw the ability, we did it. Caught them being good.
And the good acts,
if you will.
Reinforcement of those positive interactions.
And then we tried really hard to model and give ideas to our families as to, this is what we did at school today. Your child really enjoyed it. I bet you if you did that again this weekend, you would see a different kiddo. You would see their love for this or that or whatever. And it could have been something as simple as taking a walk together. Mom wasn't on her phone. Dad wasn't on the game. We went outside in the backyard and we played for 15 minutes together. Now the kids are going to want to play longer. Parents are going to be like, okay, this is a lot.
I'm done. One game of tag.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, if I had to play tag right now, I probably wouldn't make it very far. Hey everyone, this is Dania.
And this is Tamara.
And if you'd like our content and would like more information about the professional development trainings we offer, or just want us to come out and motivate your staff,
contact us at tdece2024@gmail.com or on Instagram at Tamara_Dania_ECE. We look forward to hearing from you. You could dance party. Dance party in the house.
Oh my gosh, dance party in the house. Karaokeing to, whatever latest Disney movies out, all the songs.
Singing in the car.
Oh God, singing in the car is the best one.
As loud as you possibly can, as bad as you possibly can, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't. And they love that. And they crave that. And they have that at school. They want that at home. And it really doesn't take that much time out of your day to do that and see your child's reaction and to see that smile, to see that face light up. It's worth it.
It can be planned into your day. We need to go back to sitting together at dinner time. And asking, how was your day?
Yeah.
And being present and teaching in those moments that, we often eat food together to socialize. So that's where those ideas of how do we interact with people at the table when we are having a meal. And it starts at home and saying, okay, what did you do? What was one thing that was fun? And narrowing it, because how was your day? I mean, even now as an adult, my day was fine. And end of conversation, it was fine. But ask, what was one thing that you did that was really fun? Was there anything that stood out for you?
We always can play Pits and Cherries, because Pits and Cherries is a, tell me one thing that was good and one thing that was not so good. Simply because I don't want to have the stress of having to tell you something good every time.
Okay, that's a good point.
Because it may not be. I may have had the no good, terrible, awful, very bad day.
It's a no good. I'm Alexander, and I'm moving to Australia.
There you go.
Yes.
And that is, that may be where you're at. And for those of you who don't get that connotation, that is a children's book Alexander.
A terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day.
Mm-hmm.
And he decides that this day is so bad, I am moving to Australia just to get away from it.
Mm-hmm.
And that brings us to the other part, like literacy.
Mm-hmm.
Here we go,
Here we
literacy,
go,
and how
literacy.
important it is to that we can teach so many social skills through reading books. And if we don't have the words for them, many of the books that we read and have available to us are unbelievable
Mm-hmm.
in teaching these social skills.
Right, they are. So on the pits and cherries kind of conversation.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens when there's a pit? How do we teach them? Pits are going to happen, and there's a resolution to almost every pit, because when it happens in the moment, it is the piteous pit of all. And there's just, I'm down, falling down into a pit. I got a pit in my hand, and I can't. Looking up is difficult, much less thinking that there's an up or there's an out. So how do we teach that conflict resolution? I think one of the ways that I used to, especially when we were setting expectations and the rules of the classroom, that kind of thing, was that I would role play.
Mm-hmm.
I would role play with my IAs, and I was always the aggressor.
An IA is an instructional aid.
I'm sorry,
or another adult in the classroom.
Another adult in the classroom.
Mm-hmm.
Or, yeah, anybody that's in the classroom. I was usually the aggressor because I knew where I wanted it to go.
Mm-hmm.
So, setting up the scene. Either that or I'd whisper in their ear, pull my hair, or something, so that I could react all extra dramatically. I bet you can't imagine that I would have reacted dramatically.
Oh, never. Dramatic and Dania in the same word. Never. The thespian background means nothing.
Absolutely nothing. Nothing at all. We would role play, and we'd freeze the scene, and we'd look at the kids. Their eyes would be huge saucers. Just, they couldn't believe that Miss Dania hit her. And so we'd role play that. We'd talk about it. We'd go through that. That helped in controlling. We'd redo the scene in the correct way. Mm-hmm. Control those big emotions first and breathe and count to 10 and, all of that kind of stuff. Again, naming those feelings. It would teach them to name those feelings. Taking turns speaking and listening. Mm-hmm. That's hard for adults.
Right. You got to listen to what the other person is feeling in order to understand.
Mm-hmm. Instead of thinking about what you're going to say next.
Have empathy.
Empathy is always good.
Empathy.
Okay. Compromising in order to get to a solution. Mm-hmm. Because with a 3-year-old, no is no is no, mine is mine is mine.
Right.
And, teaching them that they don't have to do it alone. They don't have to solve it alone. So those were our big steps to teaching conflict resolution.
Yeah. I mean, those are huge in the beginning process. And I think one of the other ones that we're thinking is definitely encouraging empathy and understanding. And I've kind of thrown that out a little bit, but being able to take the perspective of someone else. Mm-hmm. You pull, look at you. She's crying. Mm-hmm. She's hurt. Mm-hmm. Taking the time to listen to what they're feeling too. I felt like I needed to pull her hair just to get her attention. Okay, there we go. Mm-hmm. Next time, just ask her if you'd like to play.
Yeah.
Being aware of yourself and how you're feeling, and in regulating those emotions is difficult sometimes. So taking the perspective of others, that's huge.
That's huge.
If we can get to that point of perspective taking, that's going to change lives.
As adults, if we could get to that point,
There's a Brene Brown video on empathy. And she talks about the difference between sympathy and empathy. and being able just to listen and know that it's okay to say, I hear you, I'm here with you, and not have to fix everyone.
Right.
And that's not our job as teachers. It's not our job as parents to always have the fix, even though we want to.
Oh, so much.
It's so hard.
Yeah.
You know, you want to fix everyone that you come into contact with. You want to take away their pain. You want to help them. And there's times where we just can't.
Right.
But we can say, I feel with you. I'm here.
I'm here.
And I'll be here. I'm not going anywhere. Those are powerful words.
Yeah.
Especially when a child is struggling, the same thing we talked about earlier. I'm going to be here when you're ready. And that's something that you can tell someone as an adult. That's something that we can tell children. And it means the world.
It really does. Teaching, parenting, it's a journey. It's a long and bumpy road. What we see from the beginning of a school year to the end of a school year, we cannot believe this is the same child and how they've grown, what skills they have. As a parent, what you raised and continue to watch grow as they spread their wings and fly is not the same. It's not the same. It is a huge journey that we have to remember to give ourselves grace, give ourselves a little bit of kindness, because you're not going to get it right the first time all the time.
Right. Hardly ever.
Hardly ever.
But that's okay.
It is what it is. There's a lot of I'm sorry's. There's a lot of didn't mean that. Let's start over. But to be patient in the challenge and, take every W that you can, take every win, no matter how small. And remember that it is an overtime. Nothing happens overnight, but all of it will set us up for later in life.
It's a lifelong journey of ebbs and flows.
Absolutely.
Ups and downs.
Absolutely. All right. So that's it for today's episode of Talk Early to Me. I am Dina.
And I am Tamara.
And we hope you've gained some valuable insights into the early childhood education world. Be sure to subscribe and share with others who are also passionate about early childhood education. Always remember, every moment can have a big impact on a child's development. So until next time, be safe,